All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is about a 30-minute webinar. Well, it could go a little bit longer based on the conversation we have as a group. But this webinar is about the development candidate role as in engineering management in the business world. And the reason why we're doing this is that there's a lot of misperceptions about, I think, just generally careers in the business world. And if there's one that I think, and I've been doing this for 25 years now, that has probably the greatest misperception is engineering. And I haven't quite figured out why that is. And maybe I'll ask the engineers here that are our panelists to talk about some of those misperceptions and where they come from. So my goal is and our goal as a group is to give you as a listener or a watcher of this, really an inside view of what engineering is and all the different paths of engineering could go into. And I think one of the interesting things is that we give engineering this big umbrella, but there's like engineering in manufacturing. There's engineering at a corporate headquarters developing new products. There's engineering at customer sites. It's any career field, it just bifurcates and just keeps on dividing into different tracks. And I think that's one of the reasons why engineering is such an exciting career field, and it creates a lot of opportunities. So the agenda is we're going to have the panel introduce themselves here in a minute. We have 3 Cameron Brooks alumni from more than 5 years ago, 5 or more years ago. So they have experience working in the business world. They've been promoted. They've been in different engineering roles. So I think there's some really good depth that they're going to bring to it. Then we'll talk about the misperceptions and define really what engineering is. What are the traits or the backgrounds or the skills that make a really good engineering candidate as a development candidate in the business world? Why a junior officer fits with that? And then what are some of the different roles and industries that are in there? And then we'll finish with a bit of a roundtable discussion if we need to cover any other topics. And the panelists are here because they're living it. And I'm a non-engineer. So they've lived it. I've only helped engineers transition and work through their careers through promotions and things like that. So they can talk about this specifically. So this is just a quick overview. You can see that we're going to have Marquette and Luke Levesque down on the bottom left. That's their wonderful family. They're in Minnesota. And then Chaz Hoskins, they're off to the right. And we're going to kick it over to Chaz. And you could go ahead and introduce yourself for just a moment, Chaz. Tell the audience a little bit about your background, your transition, and how you got to where you are today.
Sure, yeah. My name's Christopher Hoskins. Everyone calls me Chaz. I grew up in SoCal, went to Cal State Long Beach, studied aerospace engineering there, did Air Force ROTC, got a Type 2 scholarship, really wanted to be a pilot, settled for developmental engineering in the Air Force. Did that for about 10 years. And then while I was in, I knocked out some extra education, as you can see there. And then while I was getting out, I decided I wanted to go into corporate America. I didn't want to work in the defense sector anymore. Although that's kind of a popular route for my career field in the Air Force. And found my way to Cameron Brooks. They helped me through the November 2017 career conference sign on with Lam Research Corporation in Silicon Valley. Just in a nutshell, Lam makes the machines that makes the chips that we all use. There's a really, really strong probability that you own devices that are powered by chips that were processed on Lam machines. So that's how I started my corporate career as a manufacturing engineer. Really loved the company. It was a great decision that Cameron Brooks coached me through, in addition to getting me prepped for all those interviews. But while I was there, the wife and I decided that we wanted to move back to Ohio. We had spent time at Wright-Patterson, decided we wanted to settle down somewhere like that. And as fortune would have it, I learned about one of Lamb's outposts known as Silfex that is right outside of the Dayton area. So we were able to do that. Been here for about 3 years now, and we've bought a beautiful home and are really enjoying the good life.
Sounds good, Chaz. It sounds like a wonderful success story and makes me feel good. Sometimes these panel discussions, I think sometimes are more for me and all the success and how happy you are all. It makes me feel good about the work that we do here at Cameron Brooks.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go over to Marquette first, and ladies first, and then we'll go back to Luke. Sorry, Luke. We're going to let Marquette lead out.
It's the right choice, Joel. Thank you.
It really is. Marquette.
I love it. Thank you, Joel. I'm excited to be here tonight to chat about kind of our, engineering experience and things like that. So I did go to the Naval Academy for college, graduated in 2010, got my bachelor's in aerospace engineering. From there, went into the Navy as a nuclear submarine officer. So did a lot of engineering, although not titled, experience throughout my time on submarines. And then near the end of my time in the Navy, did get a master's in engineering management from Old Dominion University. Went through the April 2018 career conference and got placed into a process development manager role at Boston Scientific. And you can think about process development as the engineers that take the idea from R&D and then makes it able to be made at scale in operations. So it kind of sits in between research and development and operations. And so I got to lead a team with that. I came in with a team of about 14 people, was there for just about 2.5 years. And by the time I left, had an indirect team of maybe 50 engineers, but amazing opportunity to come in as a development role into Boston Scientific. Since then, I've found that I really wanted to be more on the commercial side and work with our customers. And Boston Scientific is a medical device company. So I wanted to be closer to the patient and closer to the physicians actually in our operating rooms and things like that. So I've moved my way into marketing. But I will say in such a technical field, I still use my engineering every single day as I'm talking with physicians and how these devices are made and used. And so loving where I'm at. We've been in Minnesota. I mean, maybe I told Joel this when we landed here was we'll try it for a few years, but we'll see. I remember Joel saying, you're really going to like it. And now we've built a house and we have kids and my family's moved here. So we love it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm from Minnesota. I miss it. So I'm down here in Texas. I love Texas too, but I do miss Minnesota. I miss the Midwest. All right, Luke.
Awesome. My background, very similar to Marquette's. So also an Naval Academy grad. We met there, so, nerd love electrical engineering class. I've got a mechanical engineering degree. And nuclear submarine officer, chased Marquette up and down the East Coast, so everything from Connecticut down to Florida and about every state in between. But at the end of that, got my master's as well in engineering management, and the Navy said we could deploy or we could find a new occupation. So we decided to partner with Joel and the team at Cameron Brooks and went through the pipeline and the process. Again, went to Boston Scientific. And, for those who don't know, Boston Scientific is a medical device company. So we design, manufacture, and work with physicians, both for implantables as well as tools that are used during medical procedures. So we operate throughout the body, everything from the heart into the vasculature and the limbs, as well as your geointestinal tract, your urology areas, et cetera. So lots of really cool therapies, lots of great ways to help patients, which is really what attracted Marquette and I to that company. And I started as an operations project manager. So a little bit of a step aside from straight, call it design engineering. But my primary role within Boston Scientific was to lead cross-functional teams as we were moving new products out of the research and design stage into the manufacturing and then ultimately commercial use. So really cool job and a chance to see a lot of what constitutes operations, which is everything from manufacturing to supply chain to logistics. So it really runs the gamut of what gets a product, from the initial raw pieces into that final, good in your physician's hands. So that was great. Loved the exposure. I had the chance to work on a couple of acquisitions that we'd made. Again, found that I also enjoyed the commercial side of the business. And I have moved over into our marketing org, specifically on the urology side, leading our US laser therapies team.
And just so some of the listeners may not know, I don't think I really understood what commercial side means. That means more the sales, the marketing, the revenue generating side, which I think when you're in business, that's just a real natural thing to talk about. I think as in the military, some people may not totally understand what that means. So I want to cover that. So that's I think right there with your stories, you have really dispelled many misperceptions. And I would say that we picked these three people to be panelists. They're because we love working with these three. They are representative. They're not the unique ones that have had some different path. They are representative of the people we place into engineering roles. When I talk to people about, hey, have you thought about engineering, or engineers that are getting out? If an engineer comes back to me and says, well, I'm not as interested in it, I'll say, how come? That second bullet is, I just think it's a lot. I don't want to be designing. I don't want to be doing design work. And I don't want to do just technical work. I want more. We would call that more non-developmental. Those are really important roles. And I'm sure I know Boston Scientific has people like that. I for sure know Lam does. Companies have people and you need them. They're critical. And like none of us, four of us here, are going to say these people aren't important. This is just not the roles that we work with, because first and foremost, what we're doing at Cameron Brooks is helping transition leaders, and then leaders who happen to be engineers, into the engineering category. So that can be, I think that their introductions really bring out that this is developmental in nature. It opens up paths to a lot of different things, and that you're going to gain a skill set that can go into many different directions. And I think that one of the things I also took away that's not necessarily unique to engineering, but for Chaz, you built a skill set. And then because of that, you ended up being able to go back to an ideal location as well because of that. And Marquette and Luke, you all pivoted to areas that you really liked and wanted to do that. So non-development candidates have more of a difficult time doing that because they build up this subject matter expertise. And so not at all. These are developmental in nature. And in fact, you can start off in engineering and manufacturing, is very much like what Luke was talking about, and get into engineering working with customers. You can go from engineering quality at the corporate to getting into engineering at a plant if you really want to be around the hard engineering at a plant and doing design layout and things like that. I guess I just kick it over to the panelists here for a minute. What was your perception of engineering when you started talking with Cameron Brooks, and what did you find as a reality? Maybe just a couple of you can address that.
Can I go first?
You bet. Air Force first.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're the fastest. So yeah. Okay. So honestly, I thought I was going to be getting into more actual engineering. To be perfectly honest, I was a little disappointed with how not real engineering my military positions were. A lot of it was administrative, and it wasn't entirely administrative. I definitely did some data analysis for, the first 4 years were very intensive with data analysis, but then I went on to be a staff officer. And okay, now you kind of lose access to working with data. So I kind of had the opposite perception. I was expecting to get into more hands-on technical work that I actually liked. And I actually found that, and I was very pleased with that. So
yeah, your point is that you got to do more technical than what you were getting to do in the military.
Yeah, and it's not sitting behind a desk and number crunching. It's going out on the floor, finding out where the problems are, finding out who's bothered by these problems, then going back and coming up with a solution. And like the other panelists have talked about, working with a cross-functional team to find the best solution, leveraging the teamwork dynamic, the collective intelligence, and finding the best solution, and then, you know, turning that into a reality, and then people come and thank you because you just made their work life a lot better. So, you know, those are good feelings. Those are nice, like warm fuzzies, and you go home and you feel like, you know, you didn't work all day. You felt like you helped other people, and it's a good feeling. It's satisfying. So
Maybe I'll jump in, Joel, if that's okay. I kind of, it's funny thinking back to the career conference, and I remember having a conversation with Luke going, I really don't want to do engineering. I had all of these misperceptions about engineering going to the career conference. And I said, but I'm going to trust the process, and I'm going to go to the interviews. And then I remember interviewing with Boston Scientific and was like, this is the role. This is so cool. And so I do think, like, I thought this was going to be far more design engineering. And once I got into that position at Boston Scientific, I remember saying to my team, like, if I'm doing the engineering work, something is very wrong here. Like, my goal is to break down barriers for you, understand the big picture. How do I help you be successful as an engineer? Which I never could have done without an engineering background. I think it would have been very hard. But at the same time, I got to go, you know, like Chaz is saying, be a problem solver. I think that's the one thing that we bring from the military that I didn't recognize was such a key driver compared to my peers, that I can go identify problems and I know how to solve complex problems in a way that's quick and efficient and makes a difference. And really that's what engineering is in the corporate world, is solving complex problems. And so, you know, I still use that every day, even in marketing. And so I think I was a lot of these misperceptions before we went to our conference.
Yeah, and the final piece that I'll offer here is, you know, I had the same concerns. Like, I didn't, you know, I'm glad, Chaz, you're enjoying the data and the technical side. It's not what I wanted. And so the other piece, I think, maybe specific for Navy, was that I'd come out of a shipyard environment. You know, I had done a year in the yards during a nuclear overhaul, and it was horrible. Like, it was not enjoyable. It was not what I saw as something I wanted to do. And so I had this like fear in my head of like, well, I'm going to go back and it's going to be like that. And I couldn't have been more wrong. And I think the biggest piece really is stepping into, you know, the manufacturing space for me, really stepping into the business world. You know, so you're all there to add value. Like, you're driving success forward. In that, for me as an engineer moving into a technical area, I could still really lean on all the things that made me successful in the military. And I could lean on project management skills. I could lean on technical experience. I could lean on problem solving. And that meant that I could come in, and even though I didn't know the specifics of the products or even necessarily the pipeline, you know, I could use those non-tangibles to make myself an asset a lot faster than I would have had in a different environment.
You guys, I couldn't talk about that. Let me ask you one more question. How important is having a professional engineering license for the types of roles that you're in?
I don't have one.
I don't have one.
Don't have them.
Yeah, and not everybody asks that, but I get asked a lot by engineers about the professional engineer license. I was like, you don't need one. And I'm just going to actually bring in a little bit of a personal thing here to use an example. So I have a daughter. My oldest daughter is a biomedical engineer, started off in quality engineering at a medical company, and now she does product marketing, does not have a professional engineering license. I have another daughter who's a civil engineer, environmental engineer, but at a civil and environmental engineering company. So she's working towards her professional engineering license. She's developing a subject matter expertise in that civil environmental engineering domain. So that makes sense for her to get the PE, but as a development candidate, and I hate to say she's not developmental, but she's going to really be in that niche of that industry. And so she needs that to keep working on civil engineering projects. Whereas what we're talking about here in these developmental type of companies that are broad-based, it's not something that is as valued as a development candidate. And I wanted to bring that out for a moment, but because we get asked that a lot about the PE. So what is engineering management? I mean, here's the technical definition, and you guys already actually defined it when you talked about what you guys were doing. You're taking technical and data and science to improve the design of how to make something, the operation of a product, equipment, processes, and systems. You know, in the end, it's really engineering is about problem solving. And, you know, whether it be problems around equipment, how a product works, or a system or a layout. And I think it's such an important, it is so important for any company that really makes a product. Any company that has a physical product, you're absolutely going to have engineers and developmental tracks and engineers, because you got to figure out how to make it, you got to figure out how to package it, you got to figure out how to make it easy for the customers to open, to use, and you're constantly having to innovate, bring new products to the marketplace, innovate for the customers. And so engineers play a critical role for any company that makes a product. Now, there's also engineers, and they call them engineers, at some service companies like banks and things like that, where we've seen electrical engineers, even mechanical engineers, where you're really looking at processes and systems. So it's not as technical, but it's still that thought process that's so critical. And again, this come back to problem solving and layout and steps and things like that. Anybody want to color in any more of the definitions of, well, I guess I got another slide here. Yeah, anyone who want to color in more the definition of what engineering management means or differs from any of that?
Yeah, I would say, you know, if you're a JMO looking at getting into engineering in the corporate world, this is going to be more what you're doing, and this is really leadership. The leadership is a big part of this. If you want to draft stuff and, you know, do CAD and a lot of that stuff, if that's what you want to do all day, Cameron Brooks probably isn't, you know, that's not really what Cameron Brooks excels at. They excel at, you know, putting you into a place where you can grow and climb and lead, because I think that's what these companies are coming to you guys for. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, just one example there, we had to implement a design change in order to keep our lean line on track for a new product. If we didn't do this, we would have delayed being able to sell this product by months and months. It just wouldn't have been feasible. It wouldn't have been compatible for our lean line. And I was the person that kind of, you know, this problem kind of centered on, I was the one that realized what was going on, the real big picture. And it wasn't me that came up with the exact, you know, drawing for the new part that was going to unlock this problem or fix this problem for us. But I just knew a guy. I know there was a guy on the team, and I had a good relationship with him, and I had worked to establish that relationship with him, to have some rapport, so that if I needed to ask for a favor to get something done quickly, I knew he would do it. And so that's what I was able to do. And it was, you know, kind of having that systems thinking mentality, being able to recognize the problem, the strategic implications of a problem, and then turn that into some kind of technical requirement that an expert like that can use, and then coordinating that. That's really the name of the game here. It's not sitting at a desk and doing AutoCAD all day.
Some of the different places that you can be an engineer, we've touched on this already a couple of different ways, but you can be in an engineering role in a manufacturing facility where they have a variety of engineers in manufacturing, where you are a manufacturing engineer. What's the layout? What equipment needs to be utilized? How do you optimize that? Or the process engineers, like what's the process steps? How do we make things better? You'll have people that are called quality engineers in production facilities, looking at quality initiatives and using things like Lean and Six Sigma. Chaz talked about the data to identify opportunities to solve production problems, and customer applications engineers. And this is a little bit different than I think the product marketing that what Marquette's talking about. But Chaz, I know in your company, you have engineers at semiconductor manufacturing facilities. So companies that buy your product, they call them applications engineer. They're on site. What is the application of your company's products in their environment? And so there's a variety of companies that do technical products that have these applications engineers that are had this customer service, solving problems for the customers. I know you took yourself on mute. Did you have anything you wanted to say on that, Chaz?
Oh, no, but yeah, that's kind of the name of the game where I'm at now as a quality engineer, is very customer focused and helping
Yeah.
the folks in the field and at their sites solve problems.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you have engineers that are on different sites, maybe like a energy at a site, maybe offshore or a drilling platform or something like that. And then corporate offices, we talked about that. Some of the new product development that Marquette and Luke, you talked about. How do we get this from R&D out of production? There's project managers that are doing that. There's quality people that are in plants, but there's also quality people that are at the headquarters. Am I missing any other kind of corporate office type of engineer roles that would be more of at the headquarters or a division type of level role?
No, I think you covered it, Joel. You can kind of think of anywhere from that initial like design thought process phase up to the point where it goes to a manufacturing line. That's kind of the corporate office type work where you're in labs that aren't as controlled and things like that, learning and iterating quickly.
So, the first thing that companies really still look for is leadership. The bullet's second, but it really should be first. They're really looking for leadership. Now, most engineering roles, not all, are more working across the organization with peers. We just placed somebody in a role that's leading a team of 12 other engineers, and their that's a design team he accepted the job. So he's leading a design team of other engineers to create custom packaging for companies like Boston Scientific and other that have create these unique devices that got to get shipped and be safe and sterile. Like, what do we need? So he's leading a team of design engineers. So it's not always cross-functional, but frequently is. But even in that case, it's probably more of a cross-functional style because of the types of people he is leading. Technical aptitude, of course. And there's varying degrees. Some engineering jobs we want people who are really technical. Like Chaz said, I really like that technical, and they probably wanted something a little bit more technical in the company you went to. And maybe some of the applications engineers or other roles at companies may not have to be as technical, but you're going to definitely need that aptitude. A lot of the work is, as you mentioned, problem solving. And once you identify the problem, of course, it then becomes a project. So it's this combination of problems and projects. And I think, again, a misperception of engineers, you got to be a good communicator. I mean, if you're going to be a good leader, you have to be a good communicator, an effective communicator, I should say, because there's a difference, I think. So those are really the traits that make up a really good engineer that we hear frequently from our clients of what they're looking for. Again, I'm going to kick it back over to the panel to see what you all have to say about those.
Yeah, I would say cross-functional leadership and being able to influence your peers are probably the most valuable skills. That's I don't know which, I don't have a stratified list of what the most valuable skills are, but those are definitely really, really important. So, getting into this new career and consciously working on that in yourself and going into these interviews and being able to talk to those is going to be really important. And then the effective communication. One point I want to make is I read this somewhere, and it just has to do with how human brains receive information, and you're like 10 times, or I don't know, several times more likely to retain things you've seen rather than things you've heard or read. And so another great skill to have is not just effective communication. Well, visual communication is effective communication. So painstakingly getting graphs and having really good photos in your presentations and things like that. Those are really good skills to be an effective engineer on the corporate side, which is probably also true on the military side as well. So just bring that with you. They'll like it.
Agreed. And I think to echo Chaz, the point that was made earlier, even with Marquette's background, is that for most of the times when we're hiring engineers, it's to come in and lead teams of engineers, right? It's not to come in and be that design engineer. if you're looking for that competency, you know, for the example, you know, Joel's daughter being a biomed engineer, that is a perfect person to come in and grow as an engineer, to be that subject matter expert. You know, where folks come and hire from Cameron Brooks and get JMOs is you're looking for somebody that can bring that leadership, to bring that team forward and really start to kind of learn that business and get that overall picture pulled together.
Here's some of the other key competencies: get the data, optimizing systems. You might be working with vendors to certify there's compliance, safety types of things that you can also get involved in. So let's talk a little bit about some of the industries. So energy industry, ExxonMobil, some of the big players in hydrocarbon energy. Enerflex is a smaller provider of equipment for oil and gas drilling processes, but then NextEra Energy is an alternative energy company. High-tech companies. I didn't put Lam Research here just because you were going to be on it. I suppose I figured you could talk about it since Lam, but Lam, where Chaz is, would definitely belong there. Corning, AMS, Semiconductor, which maybe Chaz, some of your equipment's at their sites for them, and then Motorola. So the high-tech industry, we've got the Boston Scientific, the Strykers, the J&Js for medical device, pharmaceutical companies. Eli Lilly would be an example of a pharma company. They're not listed here, but that would be another one. Consumer packaged goods, Unilever, Boston Beer Company, Mars. I don't know about those. I think those last two companies sound like maybe where I would like to go to work, have beer and M&Ms. I don't know. Maybe I should be an engineer and go there. But so these are just some of the examples of companies that we work with that hire engineers. And so you can see engineers really go into a lot of different industries. And really, if I had to go back and do the slides again, I really would put some of the service industries. I've seen engineers go into consulting, go into banking, and use that engineering. That's not maybe an engineering career field, but they're going to use that engineering skill set. I'm curious, what kinds of, I think Marquette, you said, I don't want to go to engineering. Maybe what did you guys, if you remember that far back, what did you guys come down to as the options that you might have gone into before choosing the current company?
Yeah, I was probably all over the map, I think, in my final decision. So I was anywhere from marketing at a med device company to the role I have, to consulting. I think we're kind of like the three that I was trying to look at. But as I look back at the offers that really, and the companies that really excited me, they were ones that I could use that technical background, and I could come in, make a difference in engineering, learn corporate America while leveraging some of this other stuff I know. And honestly, like that's what I was then able to go figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up, beyond that. And so I don't know, for me, it was a little all over the map, but I never expected to settle on engineering. I'll put it that way. So,
similarly, I think when I went through the conference, I told Joel, like, I want sales, I want business analyst, and I just a little bit of engineering. My top three that we ended up choosing between were actually all project management, all engineering project management, both med tech as well as tech. So that's something that, I found through the process, actually what I gravitated towards, what I was really interested in.
Yeah, personally, I kind of had it narrowed down to, what do you call it? So business analysis, project management and engineering. And I think I'm really glad that I chose the engineering route.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, all three of you, for being here. Anything you want to add in to what we either did, at what we covered, maybe some additional points or anything that we should have covered that you feel like should be added in, or maybe things you wish you would have known if you were watching this video 6-7 years ago?
And I think the biggest thing as I talk to transitioning, veterans and JMOs, especially about engineering, is that a lot of times when you're trying to get your foot in the door at a company, and you're trying to find a function where you can come in and you can make an immediate impact, right? So you want to grow that personal brand, you want to grow your success, and then you can start to look elsewhere at what you might want to do. but that first impression, right? It's a first impression for a reason. You only get one. And so I think for me personally, being able to lean on the things that I learned as an engineer and I used in the military as a military engineer, in taking those and dropping those into corporate America meant that at least I could almost put that part of it on autopilot, right? Like I'm going to follow my habits, I'm going to follow my gut, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to go learn this whole corporate side of things that I don't know anything about. But so that really, I think for me and for folks I talk to, it's like, take what you know and what you're good at, and then apply that in your first role. And after you've had a couple years there and you've been successful, then you can pick up and do whatever you want. But that first opportunity is really that critical piece.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. Establishing your sort of brand, getting to know people, making sure they know you, and making sure that they like the work you do is extremely important. After that, you can do exactly pretty much whatever you want. It's a choose your own adventure kind of game, and much more. I think you have much more control over it than people in the military actually do.
Brock actually mentioned this, who's monitoring this. He texted this in to ask you guys. I think this is a great question. All three of you are at the same company that you initially went to work for several years ago, and like 5+ years ago. Why?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can start with this one. I love the culture at Boston Scientific. It's honestly, through the follow-up interview process, I truly didn't think culture was really something that I was looking for out of the military, especially given being a working mom and all these things that I was trying to balance in my life. I didn't realize you could feel a difference in companies just being and doing follow-up interview process. And it's to this day still one of the reasons I stay at Boston Scientific. So I think there's the culture piece for me has been really important in how we support employees and are really a people first company. I think the other thing is I've had runway to go do what I want to do. Like when I was in engineering for 2.5 years and I went to my manager and I said, hey, I really am thinking I want to get closer to the customer and move more towards a business role. They said, great, let me help you get there. Let's see who we can network you with and do that. So there was never this, I've always been helped along the way to get to where I want to, recognize that I have potential in different places. I think if those moments hadn't happened, I probably would have looked elsewhere, knowing that I had desires to do different things. So that's been it for me. I don't know. And I still think I've got a while here. I've never looked at another company, honestly. So.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. And I think the other piece, so we're in Minneapolis, which is a med device hub, right? There's all kinds of other companies that, I can drive down the street, pick up a new job if I wanted. But within Boston Scientific, similarly is that we had that opportunity to grow, and I had the opportunity to explore, learn new things. As I think about, do I stay or do I go? The opportunities here, equal what I would have found potentially at another company, and also just kind of the network. So there's a strong veterans network within BSC, and that's something that I've leaned on. It really just having that opportunity to coordinate with other veterans. On the Cameron Brooks alum, I interviewed for a new role a couple of months ago, and one of the directors was placed by Joel and the team, 5 years before I got here. So just to have that legacy of companies that have worked with Cameron Brooks, they know what they're going to get and they like it, has made me want to stay here versus looking somewhere that doesn't appreciate that.
Yeah, and to that point really fast, I think it's because they appreciate what you get out of the military and they appreciate the leadership and they will leverage that while they kind of help you shore up some of those weaknesses that maybe some of your peers have. And our veteran network is super strong here. I'm not sure if Chaz has the same feeling there, but the Cameron Brooks alum took us in, and I mean now one of them is the godfather of our youngest child. So I mean it's just been a network that we've been able to have here, and especially moving somewhere you have nobody was really important.
Sounds
good. There were quite a few Cameron Brooks alum when I first started out as well, and they helped show me the ropes, and when the new folks came in from Cameron Brooks, I paid it forward too. So.
Well, thank you, all of you, for joining us and sharing your insights into your career. We appreciate you guys for doing this, and I know this has been super beneficial for those that are watching.